Hello, I'm Amara Jones, and today is Thursday, July 30th. This is Caffeine TV, your daily news brief, here to take you through three headline numbers in just 3 minutes, giving you a different take on everything from housing policy to the Real Housewives. The first number of today is 25. That's the age of white University of Cincinnati police officer Ray Tensing, who on July 19th shot 43-year-old Sam DuBose, a black father of 10, in the head during a routine traffic stop. And yesterday, Officer Tensing was indicted by Hamilton County prosecutor Joseph Dieters for that act, which he described as, quote, clearly murder, close quote. Now, Officer Tensing stopped Mr. DuBose for missing a front license plate, but after Mr. DuBose showed him the license plate, it was in his car. The officer then asked him for his license, and then there was a peaceful back and forth as to whether or not he in fact had his license on him. But after a while, the officer asked him to get out of the car, and when Mr. DuBose didn't comply immediately, Officer Tensing reached in to unbuckle his seatbelt and then shot him in the head. Not surprisingly, DA Dieters called that, quote, the most asinine act I've seen a police officer make, close quote, and said that Officer Tensing should have never been a police officer in the first place. Now, since the death of Michael Brown almost a year ago, there's been an ongoing debate as to whether body cams on police officers were actually useful, but the indictment of Officer Tensing should lay that to rest. However, one of the most interesting things to me was during the press conference when the DA said that this is the United States of America and said, quote, people don't get shot for traffic stops, close quote. Well, there's some contrary evidence that is indeed the case. However, so far in this case, it seems that justice is being served. The next number of today is 9, as in 9 feet by 3 feet. That's the size of a piece of an aircraft to wash up on French overseas territory, Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean yesterday, and authorities are now saying that it's the first piece of Malaysian Air Flight 370, which disappeared nearly 17 months ago with 269 people on board, to be found. Now, of course, 370 is that infamous flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, which took a mysterious turn and then vanished without a trace over the Indian Ocean, spawning a range of conspiracy theories about what might have happened, from it might have been the victim of a terrorist explosion mid-air to it having been landed on a secret island off the coast of Africa to perhaps being the victim of an alien kidnapping being pushed into a parallel dimension. Well, this is the first piece of evidence that it is indeed still on the planet Earth. Now, according to analysts in the New York Times, those who are familiar with the currents near Reunion Island say that it must have come from off of Australia, off of the northwestern coast there, but the current search area is off of the southwestern Australian coast, and maybe with this evidence, the search area will be moved and the plane be found, which would be welcome news to hundreds of families around the world who have had to endure unspeakable grief. The last number of today is 2001. That was the last year that Mullah Omar, the head of the Taliban in Afghanistan, as well as the government there and harborer of Osama bin Laden, was last seen in public. But yesterday, the current president of Afghanistan announced that he died back in 2013. Now, Mullah Omar is one of the leading reasons why the United States launched its military campaign in Afghanistan after the attacks of 9/11. They demanded that he hand over Osama bin Laden and top leaders of Al-Qaeda. And when he refused, however, the United States then set off its war there to bring down the government and capture Osama bin Laden, setting off the longest military conflict in U.S. history. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to why the government in Afghanistan announced now that he's dead, and one of the leading ideas is that due to the fact that the current peace negotiations between that government and the Taliban are stalled now, that the announcement of his death will make the Taliban more pliant. Well, nothing else so far has done the trick, so maybe this will actually make a difference.